Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Monmouth County. My name is Angie Morfogen, and my pronouns are she, her. I serve as chair of the Aesthetics Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Worship Committee, and we do the art shows, we do seasonal decorating, and we try to keep this wonderful place looking wonderful. We're always in need of new volunteers, so if you're interested in helping us, we'd be more than happy to take your assistance. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Our mission is to create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world. I draw your attention to the backside of your orders of service for announcements and service information for next week. For those of you on live stream and for video viewers, the order of service link is available to you in the YouTube service description box. Liz, you have Tortorella? Yes. Thank you.
Good morning. I have good news for Music Committee, and while Reverend Craig knows I'm going to make this announcement, he doesn't know until the second that I'm inviting him to come stand with me. Thank you, Reverend Craig. Music Committee was delighted to learn that Reverend Craig's benefit concert raised $3,600 for our congregation. Thank you, Reverend Craig, for generously sharing beautiful music with us. And as you had noted, this was your way of helping close the budgetary gap that's a concern for our congregation this fiscal year. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate everyone who supported the event and its terrific reception. Thank you. And now Judy Stevens has more good news.
Good morning. My name is Judy Stevens. I serve the congregation as council moderator, and every month I get to come up here and note an outstanding volunteer who gives their time and treasure and themselves to this congregation. Since joining the congregation more than 20 years ago, Angie Morfogen has been most notable in her consistent efforts to bring arts, artistry, and aesthetic pleasures to us, and curating exhibits such as the one currently gracing these walls, sharing her artistic talents at our newly revived fall art sale, heralding the arrival of winter holidays in the sanctuaries and foyers decorations, and keeping the chancel seasonably attractive. She has added to our enjoyment of this beloved space. Always quiet and unassuming, and always sure in her artistic touch, Angie shares with us her grace and vision. Thank you, Angie Morfogen.
Please note that there will be an interim congregational meeting beginning at noon in the community room and on Zoom. If you are new to us, please do visit our website, UUCMC.org, where you can sign up to get all the latest news of the congregation by email. We look forward to getting to know you better. Please put your devices on silent as we enter into worship together. Welcome again to this place of love and hope.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. We're going to be singing a familiar song. If you know the chorus and would like to join in, please do. Inch by
I'm the Reverend Dr. Craig Rubano. Hello there to all assembled. I want to start by wishing our Muslim siblings in spirit who begin this evening Ramadan, a month-long period of introspection and fasting. So I wish them Ramadan Kareem, or may you have a generous Ramadan. Nature and national policy played a rather cruel joke on U.S. Muslims last night by adding an additional daylight hour to their fasting. So we wish them fortitude, and in light of our monthly congregational theme, we wish them the transformation that comes from putting one's faith forward in one's mind and in one's actions. Thank you for joining us this morning, the second Sunday in Women's History Month. We will put women front and center today, and it begins with a thank you to the Aesthetics Committee for decorating our walls with a special women's art show with offerings from artists from within our congregational family. We're lucky to have Helen Coe speaking to us later on her artistic process. Also this morning we'll hear from Beth O'Connell about the vital work being done by the International Convocation of UU Women. And as many of you know from the joyous celebration last Sunday and from the garden song offered to us by Betsy and the Ooks just now, we have entered into our Seeds of Love stewardship season, pledging our support for the upcoming fiscal year beginning July 1st. Today we will hear from two women, Jan Boyarin and Missy Falkenberg, on how and why they pledge their time, talent, and treasure to this, their beloved UUCMC. So a busy morning with women and transformation at its heart. And in advance of our congregational meeting at noon in the community room, we will also have a short presentation on this congregation's endowment from Dr. David Fischel. In keeping with both our new stewardship theme and our monthly theme, our two opening segments will focus on the seed. Our call to worship, with the word worship understood in its original meaning of a shaping concern for all that is of worth, comes to us from an English author interested in wresting new meanings from familiar images and stories. The Grace of Seeds by Andrea Skevington. Seeds are blowing in the breeze, gentle, white, and light. Fairies, I used to call them as a child, back when the world was full of seeds and butterflies and glimmers of enchantment. I breathe slowly and long into all this ripening. All glows with a deeper life, light and color under the skin, shining with a song of greening and ripening. Each seed head releasing a kind of forgiveness that falls with the seed, falls to the earth, bearing new beginnings, 70 times 7. Life wills to live, despite all we have done. Life uncoils again and again. I am humble before it, before the caterpillars on the toad flax, the frog stirring beneath the strawberries. The world is indeed full of grace. We do not deserve these chances again and again and again, and yet deserving is not the point. Seeds fall. It is the very nature of things, and blow on the breeze, each one offering multitudes. It is the way of seeds. Might this grace one day, even today, catch us in its loving web as the trumpets of birdweed blaze out a song of liberation and the blackbirds tumble fearlessly, hungrily in the hedge's ripeness. For the seeds float still, and the air is still full of enchantment. Life whispers. It calls us. It sings to us. Does it know we will turn towards it at last, wooed and wonderstruck, and learn we belong, have belonged all along? We might, we may, we can. Those dry seeds show us how. Come, let us worship together. Each week we light a flame in a chalice to symbolize the sacred space that is created by our very gathering. I invite Jane Reskoff to light our chalice flame this morning. Another image of the seed, teaching us that transformation is not often, if ever, an easy process. These are words by Heather Warman, Executive Director of the Kentucky Environmental Foundation. For a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks, its insides come out, and everything changes. To someone who doesn't understand growth, it would look like complete destruction. Thank you, Jane. For our opening hymn, a reminder that transformation can feel like a river flowing through each one of us. I invite us to rise in body and or spirit to sing number 1007 in our hymnals and on the screens. There's a river flowing in my soul. I invited the chair of our endowment committee to give us a few words on this important program in our congregational life, Dr. David Fischel.
Good morning, everybody. My name's David Fischel. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm chair of the UUCMC Endowment Committee, responsible for the management and administration of the congregation's more than $700,000 endowment fund. These funds generate approximately $30,000 in annual monies that are available to the congregation to enhance programs in a way that would not otherwise be possible. Specifically from our bylaws, the mission of the Endowment Committee is to provide money for the enrichment of the UUCMC experience beyond what may be available by means of its normal operating and maintenance budget. These may be by way of new or enhanced programs, capital expenses, including projects which improve the physical facilities, and increased effectiveness of the UUCMC's outreach programs. In the past, the fund has also provided a source for loans, things like the roof we replaced a number of years ago. I know that we're all pledging this month to support the day-to-day operations and programs of UUCMC, and I'm not actually here to ask you to add funds to your pledge, but rather I would ask you to consider including the UUC endowment in your estate planning. You know, as we're all getting older and improving our wills as our children and grandchildren grow, it's something that will live on to continue supporting this place when you are gone and for generations to come. If you have any questions about this, feel free to email me. I'm on the congregational list, or corner me in the coffee hour, phone me, whatever it takes. I'm more than happy to talk about what we do and why this is an important long-term thing for sustaining this place. Thanks for your time.
Today's story is by Malala Yousafzai, a Pakistani education activist. Malala is the world's youngest Nobel Peace Prize laureate at age 17. When she was a child, a lot of serious things happened in her life. When she was 10, girls in her country were forbidden from going to school. She felt powerless until she found the magic in her voice. She wrote a children's story about her life to spread hope. She says the illustrations capture her life right down to the cracks of the wall in her home. Malala hopes to reach as many children as possible with this story, inspiring them to find magic in their writing, art, and voice. Do you believe in magic? When I was younger, I used to watch a TV show about a boy who had a magic pencil. If he was hungry, he would draw a bowl of curry, and it appeared. If he and his friends were in danger, he drew a police officer. The boy was a little hero, always protecting people who needed help. How I wanted a magic pencil, too. If I had a magic pencil, I would use it to put a lock on my door so my brothers couldn't bother me. Stop time so I could sleep an extra hour every morning. That would have come in handy today. Erase the smell of the trash dump near our house. And I would use it to make other people happy. I would draw the most beautiful dresses in the world for my mother, the best buildings in the valley for my father, so he could open many schools where children would study for free, a proper ball, so my brothers and I no longer had to play with an old sock stuffed with rubbish. Every night before I went to bed, I wished for a magic pencil of my own, and every morning, I would wake up and check my cupboard, but the magic pencil was never there. One day, I was throwing away potato peels and eggshells at the dump. I was wrinkling my nose, swatting away flies, and making sure I didn't step on anything dirty in my nice shoes, when I saw a girl about my age sorting trash into piles. Nearby, boys were fishing for metal scraps using magnets on strings. When my father returned home from work, I told him what I had seen. It made him sad. "Abba," I said. "Yes, Johnny," he said back. I always liked it when he called me Dear One. "Why haven't I seen that girl in my class?" "Because," he said. But he didn't finish right away. Because, Johnny, in our country, not everyone sends their daughters to school, and some children must work to support their family. Those boys will sell metal scraps they find. If they went to school, their families would go hungry. School was my favorite place, but I had never considered myself lucky to be able to go. My father had always said, "Malala will live free as a bird." Now I wondered how free I'd truly be. That night I thought about families who didn't have enough food, and the girl who couldn't go to school, and even about how when I was older I would be expected to cook and clean for my brothers, because where I come from, many girls weren't allowed to become what they dreamed of. I knew then that if I had a magic pencil, I would use it to draw a better world, a peaceful world. First, I would erase war, poverty, and hunger. Then I would draw girls and boys together as equals. Over the next few years, instead of wishing for a magic pencil every night, I worked hard in school every day. I wanted to be one of the top students in my class. But soon, powerful and dangerous men declared that girls were forbidden from attending school. They walked the streets of our city now. They carried weapons. One by one, girls stopped coming to school. Abba, where are all the students? They don't feel safe here anymore, Johnny. How could a few men stop all the girls in the valley from going to school? If more people knew what was happening to us, I thought they might help. Wishing wasn't enough. Someone needed to speak out. Why not me? I wrote about what it felt to be scared to walk to school and how some of my friends had moved away because of the threat they faced in our city. I wrote about how much I loved school and how proud I was of my uniform. Once I started writing, I didn't stop. I wrote speeches, and I traveled around my country sharing my story. I even talked to a reporter from a famous international newspaper. People actually wanted to learn about my life. I spoke for all the girls in my valley who couldn't speak for themselves. My voice became so powerful that dangerous men tried to silence me, but they failed. And now, my voice is louder than ever. Louder because people have joined me, and together we make a chorus standing up for what we believe. We raise our voices for those in need. We help people in danger, even if they are an ocean away. We think of a world as family. Do you still believe in magic? I do. I wrote alone in my room, but people all over the world were reading my story. Millions now know it and helped me spread my message of hope. I had at last found the magic I was looking for in my words and in my work. I am Malala. I've always wished I could make the world a more peaceful place, and every day I work to make that wish come true. One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. Malala's final message is that the magic, it's in you. It's in your words, and it's in your voice. And so our story ends. And our children and youth will go now in peace.
Every week in this congregation, Every week in this congregation, we are provided with an opportunity to practice generosity. This is your invitation to contribute to the well-being of our congregation and to our social justice partners through the good works of organizations which receive half of the monies collected each month. Our Share the Plate recipient for March is Planned Parenthood of Northern, Central, and Southern New Jersey. Planned Parenthood's outreach programs reach nearly 46,000 patients each year. 20,000 of these are teens and parents. Governmental funding has been severely cut in recent years, so any and all donations are greatly appreciated. For those of you present here in the meeting house, the plates will be passed by ushers. You may also join in this time of generosity via text, send your offering by mail, or charge your contribution online with a memo designating an amount to Planned Parenthood. Please give generously.
I've invited two women who are part of our congregational family to inspire us with their giving. You want to come here?
Good morning. I guess I passed the first test. I didn't fall up the stairs, so the rest should be easy. I'm Jan Boyarin. Most of you know me as a member of this congregation, or at least recognize my face from my participation here. You probably don't know what brought me to this beloved place, how I came to UUCMC, and what this place means to me. About 12 years ago, my long-term marriage ended. It was a surprise to me when my husband decided to leave. Within the first shock week of his moving out, I managed to have the resilience to join a local singles walking group that I had found on meetup.com. And that, as Robert Frost says, has made all the difference. A man in the group told me about dialogue and that you didn't have to be a member or go to services to participate. I filed the information away, but since the walks were on Sunday morning, I never came here. A year or two later, another walking group friend and I were meeting for lunch on a Sunday, and she suggested Lincroft because she wanted to check out the Unitarian congregation. I decided to join her, and from then on, I was hooked. In the early months of coming, when I was still so vulnerable, something in Reverend Virginia's sermon would always touch me and make me cry. It was both cathartic and empowering to be at services. A little later, when I joined committees, became a board member, and attended auction parties, I found friendship, acceptance, and a place where I could contribute and be my authentic and hopefully best self. In the dark days of the Trump administration, and the one possibly to come, being active with other UUers in social justice actions has helped me to feel less discouraged. As my commitment to UUCMC grew, I served on the board as a secretary and VP at large, as public relations chair, nominating committee chair, auction committee member, and as an active member of the adult RE committee. As part of that committee, I've led book discussions and created the 8th Principle book circulating cart, which is out in the hall. I am so grateful to Reverend Virginia and Reverend Craig, to the wonderful board and committee members I have served with, and to all of you for creating a place where people like myself can thrive and seeds that are planted can grow.
Hi, my name is Missy Falkenberg, and I'm she, her, hers. Thank you so much for having me here today, and this is part of transforming ourselves. Me being up here is part of that, because I'm usually a background person. So I'm going to take you on a quick tour of my journey and why I'm so happy to be here today. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and grew up as an Episcopalian, and I was an acolyte, took communion, the body and blood of Christ. And, for years just would be like, what does this have to do with me? I just went and Googled the little mission statement, in fact, to see what it said. And it said, "This is the Lord's house, home of all God's people, school for the faithful, refuge for the sinner, haven for the weary, all find a welcome." And I knew at a very early age that was not for me. High on ritual and language, low on content for things you could apply to everyday life. No ideas for myself, no volunteer opportunities, and it was, I started questioning very early on kind of what else was out there. Then I went to a Christian high school where Dr. Yakubian, an Armenian professor of theology, was one of my teachers. And we learned about how, Jesus Christ and how God is love. And I remember sitting there being like, okay, God is love, but why does it have to be called God? Couldn't it be called dog? And my reborn Christian classmate, it was kind of, I think my professor almost fell off his chair. So kept questioning, went to college, learned that, in physics, energy is never lost or never gained. Came back, and thankfully, I don't know how, this was like before the internet, but there, near the Episcopalian church, there was a little sign for a Unitarian Universalist, like on the edge of a patch of woods. And if you went into the woods, there was a very simple contemporary church, mostly of windows, simple, and I went into that place and learned that you didn't have to have that experience of body and blood of Christ and droning language that had nothing to do with you. So poetry, music, learning about different religions. So I started to find myself there and started to understand what Unitarians were. Went to college, still questioning, saw something about the Big Bang Theory, proving the existence of God, still questioning, and then ended up coming to New York City, where I was looking for the Unitarian congregation there, so I did go for a little while there, but it was very different from coming from a little quaint, contemporary church to, I don't know if you've been to New York City's congregation, but it's quite different there. Moved to Weehawken, and then about seven, and so then I had a family, and I always wanted to provide some sort of education of values for my family, and so moved down here about 7 years ago, and thankfully Googled, and lo and behold, this congregation popped up and was very close to my house, 15 minutes away. So I was like, oh, this is like, thank God, there's one, like God. And then I was so happy to be here, and what I found, and there's so much, it's faith in action, so that was something I was always looking for. And then meeting the incredible team here, the staff, Reverend Virginia, again, always having something amazing to say, and then Reverend Craig, Michelle, Lisa, Maggie, Louise, Emma, and Francis, who helps in the kitchen. All of these folks make this place what it is. And just a little background too, I'm a fundraiser by profession. So one of the things I always wondered about, even though I've been doing it 26 years, is how does a religious congregation support itself beyond just the offering plates? I had no idea that we all, as a community, have to contribute to that. And what does that mean? So, our goal is around $400,000 here, and, it supports the life, our incredible, talented people, the life of this community. And so for me personally, it is a pleasure, like a voluntary tax. It's a pleasure for me to give as much as I can. This is my largest philanthropic commitment I do by many times over, because what I wonder and sit at night is that I don't want us to take this place for granted. I want this place to be here, and we all need this place to be here, and we need to, everyone's prices are going up. We want to make sure we're paying our folks, living wage, and I just don't want us to take this place for granted. So I'm probably preaching to the choir on that, but I hope that you'll, join with me and give, and make this place a philanthropic priority for you as well. So thanks for listening.
And now what may be a new face to some of you, Beth O'Connell, on her important international work alongside Unitarian Universalist women. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Hello. In honor of International Women's Day, which was Friday, March 8th, I asked Reverend Craig if I could highlight the work of a UU association dedicated to empowering women and girls around the world. I am a board member of the International Convocation of Unitarian Universalist Women. And we are unique in that we support programs partnering with Unitarian and UU churches around the world, or NGOs we've come to know and trust through our UU connections. I think sometimes we forget we are a global faith. For instance, you realize there are 10,000 Unitarians in Northeast India? Working with these local partners, we've supported programs such as raising awareness of domestic violence and helping victims in India, the Philippines, and Romania. We've backed leadership programs which focus on empowerment and women's rights in those countries and also in Bolivia, and with migrant women in San Antonio, Texas. With women in Africa, we've done a program on microfinance in Uganda and on basic business skills and sexual and reproductive rights in Kenya. And we've responded to crisis. We've helped the Hungarian Unitarian Church in Romania provide for Ukrainian refugees, most of whom are women and children. They are doing an absolutely amazing job. Not only are they hosting families, they've created a primary school for 6- and 7-year-olds to teach them to read and write in Ukrainian. They got the textbooks and the curriculum from Ukraine so these kids don't fall behind in their education. And they're even managing to get supplies across the border into Ukraine, like generators for hospitals. We can be very proud of our fellow Unitarians. ICUUW is an NGO with special consultative status at the United Nations. And starting tomorrow, we will have a delegation advocating for gender equity at the annual Commission on the Status of Women. We'll also be hosting 2 virtual events related to this year's theme about eliminating poverty. The majority of the world's poor are women and children. In reality, you take any social issue, and it disproportionately affects women and children. And twice a month, we host a global gathering on Zoom where we discuss a different topic each time, and we're building friendships among UUs around this country and around this world. Please join us. And if you'd like to know more, please talk to me in the community room after the service. Let me leave you with something that UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said on International Women's Day. Women's rights, which are human rights, are a proven path to fair, peaceful, and prosperous communities. It's good for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you to our speakers. I want to speak a bit and candidly about transformation. Many times for me, it arrives only after I have been inconvenienced, startled, disabused of feeling that I was correct, only after having my plans changed, or after leaving my comfort zone. In other words, transformation, like the proverbial seed, often is the result of things as we had known them, even loved them, coming apart. I'll offer 2 instances in this past 2 weeks when I've experienced a feeling of transformation. Even as I realize that in doing so, I perforce must admit, in retrospect, that I had been set in my ways, not nearly as flexible as I might have wanted to believe. The first was, you might think, a mild transformation, but in the moments just prior to it, I genuinely felt some resentment and felt a little bit lost. You see, I went to Philadelphia to see a dear friend in a performance at the country's oldest theater, the Walnut Street. Since the show was in the evening, my partner Ron thought I should really experience the Barnes Foundation. How many have been there? Okay. It's the art collection of a chemist, Albert C. Barnes, who, although growing up in poverty and supporting his education by boxing, ended up developing the silver nitrate solution that, to prevent infections, is put in the eyes of every single baby in most of the world, earning Barnes a fortune. With that money, he began a project of art appreciation, unlike anyone before or since, resulting in a collection of over 4,000 objects, including over 900 paintings. With so many by Renoir and Cézanne, I wondered how there are any left for the rest of the world's museums. But also over 900 pieces of wrought iron, hinges, door pulls, wall ornaments. Okay, let me go now to my experience of walking into the Foundation's first ample space. I immediately look around for words, plaques, descriptions of the artists, the piece's provenance, date of execution, the materials. There was nothing but paintings, arranged in huge groupings, sometimes 6 or more artworks vertically, sometimes up to 25 or so horizontally, all interspersed with these strange V-shaped and S-shaped and straight-lined and circular pieces of iron. I have to say, I was perplexed and not a little indignant. Luckily, Ron raced off and found a docent to calm me down with an explanation of what I was about to experience, because I was in the presence of a wildly eccentric, yet ultimately profound assemblage of art meant to speak to the minds and hearts of all people, not just the they think they know-it-alls, like me. See, Barnes was a scientist, and he approached art like one, developing a theory of his own for art appreciation that over the course of his adult life, he taught to everyone who would listen. He would even call a halt to work an hour early on most days at his factories and teach art loving to his own workers. He taught children, people from the neighborhood, and ultimately built and housed his collection as an art teaching center for people of all walks of life. Because he loved art so much, he thought everyone deserved a way in. So he looked for 4 observable by anyone things in his collected pieces: light, color, line, and space. And it turns out everything at his foundation, everything is placed in complex and varied ways based on relationships among these 4 concepts that the paintings share. Is the light arriving as from a similar angle in 1 or 2 paintings? Are there affinities of color? Are there painted lines in the works that paintings share in common? How many figures are present, and in what manner do they occupy the canvas's space? And would you believe that the iron pieces on the walls are the key to his thoughts? A primer for the viewer? An S-curved hinge pointed horizontally shows you that working across the assemblage, you will find an S somewhere in all those paintings in that row, and so on. All of a sudden, you start noticing other things. 2 people leaning in towards one another here, and there again, in a completely different context, figures leaning the same way, colors that travel with the eye across masterpieces that can span hundreds of years, and yet which contain deep affinities of shade and light and line. The result, you really immerse yourself in the works, searching for commonalities, opening up each piece in more complexity than I had ever experienced in a conventional museum. I have to say I was chastened. I went in there with my developed sense of how art should be presented, and I was forced to see things in completely different ways. By the way, in every room other than that first one, Barn provides pamphlets that show the wall's contents and give you all the stats I wanted. But he saw me coming. He just wanted me to be shaken in that first room out of my routines. And as I continued to look, I realized that in addition to light, color, line, and space, there are embedded in those arrangements of adjacent paintings relationships of artistic signature, of historical influence, of period. Barnes designed every centimeter of those rooms, and they have been undisturbed since 1951. We were there for 5 hours, and it was transformative. But the experience began with my throwing my hands up in the air, I fear literally, and saying to myself, or perhaps it was aloud, how are we going to spend time at this museum if they're keeping everything about the art to themselves? I think sometimes a humble minister who shares his limitations is in order, don't you think? The second transformative moment happened 2 weeks ago when I did something I did not know for sure I was capable of. I gave a concert that presented songs I love in a sequence that told my own story, that highlighted the moments in my life when things changed for me, moments that exposed my vulnerabilities. I sang an audience through moments in which I have been transformed. And while I will perform the exact same program several times for my old audiences in New York City, I felt I had to get a performance under my belt in an atmosphere where I knew I could be me and be loved for who I am. All the proceeds from the evening were my gift to the congregation, to you, as was in a way the performance itself, but at a deeper level. It was you who gifted me with the chance to be many of my me's, my theater me, the cabaret me, the scholar me, the author me, the minister me, yes, the goat owner me, all at the same time, for maybe the very first time with that level of emotional energy. This prospect was deeply uncomfortable for me. I asked my dear friend Jeff Harner to prod me. I told him it would not be easy to be my director, that I would resist everything he said, but that I needed to do something new in the way I occupy space in the world. Transformation happens often when the way things are blow up in our faces, when the floor gets pulled out from under us, when our defenses are decidedly down, just like the seed that needs to be obliterated for the flower to grow. Our campaign for this next year, Seeds of Love, speaks to a project we all accomplish together, week by week. We meet one another where we are, in all of our humanity, flawed and otherwise. We proclaim, here are the ways we will treat one another. We own the personalities and identities and religious allegiances and predilections and limitations and everything that makes each of us completely different from one another. And then we love one another. Not because of our pedigree, what would be on a plaque of our lives' wall. We love the colors, the lines, the light, the occupied space of one another. On our best days, our project called UUCMC saves lives because of our willingness to be shaken out of our places of comfort. And the values that underline such a project are worth supporting with our time, with our talent, and yes, with our money. For in this community we create, we transform ourselves. And in turn, bit by bit, we transform the worlds around us. And I'm proud to be part of the we that makes it happen. So thank you, and amen. There are sheets on the bureaus at the back of the sanctuary that do tell you who painted what on our walls. But maybe first, just let yourself be captured by the color, light, line, and space. I've asked one of our artists, Helen Coe, to speak to us about what goes into creating her art. Come on up, Helen.
Hi, everybody. Those three things are mine, but there's a lot of really nice things that the women did here. Talking about my art is a tough assignment, especially after visiting the museum of Mr. Barnes. But art's always been a part of my life. I can go back to my first art lesson, looking out the window in kindergarten and feeling sad because I wanted to join in the painting of a mural at school. The mural was to be a scene of the neighborhood. I was feeling really frustrated as I scanned the street in front of our home because I didn't know where to begin. Then my mother, seeing my frustration, said to me, pretend there's a little bug crawling on the edges of the car out front. So I slid off the chair at the window. I got my crayons and a sheet of paper and did just that. I remember thinking that I really saw a little bug crawling along the very edges of that car as it sat at the curb of a gray macadam street. My bug crawled slowly on that car. I even remember that the car was maroon and that the grass at the edge of the curb was green. And my little bug crept slowly around those edges and the windows, and then the big round tires. That little bug made me look carefully at the shapes and the curves and the straight lines of the car, the curb, and the street. I remember that the sky was blue that day, and I remember the green grass along the curb. I drew the car on that paper, I painted it, and at school I cut it out, and it was chosen to be included on that school mural. It was a remembered lesson. The lesson from that little bug and my mom was to learn to observe. And that is what art, my painting and photography, has allowed me to do. Art teaches observation. I see a shadow. It is not gray. It can undulate with greens and reds and maybe blue. Our English language is so stunted. One word to describe the many colors of blue in the sky and the brilliant colors of the sunset or the sunrise. When walking in the woods near my home up north in the Adirondacks, there was constant beauty to observe in the forests that were nearby, the open fields, often covered with snow, as well as the rippling waters of Lake Champlain, and in all of it, the changing moods of the seasons. I remember the brown of the earth during mud season. There was no spring really up there. And the emerging greens of new life, the brilliance of summer flowers and laughing children at the water's edge, the gorgeous colors of autumn, the winter and its subtle grays and white, and the trees against the gray canvas of sky, or sometimes icy blue. The trees were brushes against that sky, cleaning the world to prepare for the emergence of spring. Children outside laughing and playing in all seasons, always laughing, always outside. Art teaches observation of life. Music, to listen to the sounds of living, or to hide in between the tunes and tones when distressed, or to use when to rejoice. And it's a great accompaniment to the observations of art around me as I play with the colors and shapes. Then I can write it all down, making links from generations, recording the observations with words, and I listen to music that accompanies it all. Altogether, it equals the substance of my life. The art has given me the observation of it, and I listen to the music of the spheres, and I remember it all with words that link generations before me, generations ahead of me, and to my companions now. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Helen. Beautiful. I invite us into a short time of prayer and meditation with words in honor of International Women's Day, celebrated since 1908. These are adapted from the Reverend Carol Ann Houston, who was minister in the early 2000s at our sibling congregation in White Plains, New York. Spirit of life, that divine sense within us and around us, which is the true source of hope and empowerment, in solidarity with women and men, with people of all genders around the world this International Women's Day, let us hold in our thoughts today the 10 million women who suffer injury or death each year in pregnancy or childbirth, the 62 million girls worldwide who are denied an education, the 1/3 of women worldwide who have suffered physical or sexual violence in their lifetimes. And may we also celebrate the shining lights of hope for all the places in the world where women are claiming power and autonomy, women exercising new leadership in their communities, seeking new ways to bring them health, safety, and entrepreneurial skills. There are many bright pathways forward, and the future will shine when all women can find equal opportunity for life, liberty, and happiness. May we work together with people of all and no gender identity from all nations to build a world where all people are respected and loved. And amen. So look around. See the earth window. See the tapestry on the back wall. Go ahead. See the carved pulpit here? This beautiful minister's chair, our treasured Steinway. See the faces around you. In this season of looking forward, when we pledge ourselves anew to this beloved congregation, as our closing hymn, I invite us to align ourselves with the cardinal directions and the associated elements of air and earth and water and fire. And as we do so, let us offer our blessings to the four sides of our beloved meeting house, and in turn to the world outside our walls. So in a moment, I'm going to invite us to rise in body and spirit and face in turn clockwise the north, the east, the south, and the west. The hymn's words invoke mother, father, brother, sister, but we'll end with a fifth verse facing the earth window, invoking our inner spirits, where we know our many genders, diverse, complex, and loved. You will probably need your hymnals, 1067. If moving is uncomfortable or you'd rather stay focused on the screens, that is totally okay. The words will be there. Just have a sense of the directions around you. For those of you at home, if you don't know which direction is which, just rotate clockwise in 4 directions. Here in the sanctuary, let's begin by facing the gorgeous tapestry on the north wall behind you. Louise will play through the melody one time, Mother Earth, Beloved Garden, 1067.
Garden, living treasure underfoot. All our days you ground our being, sage and thistle, grass and root. Herbs to heal us, plants to feed us, land to till and tend and plow. With the pendant deep as midnight north, we ask you be here now. And heats our homes, flaming candle, blood within us, blazing desert will to grow. Will lift our power south, we ask you be here now. Sister water ever flowing, ocean, river, pond and rain, drink we now. Our thirsting, cleanse us, we begin again. Mist and ice, a host of changes, all that courage will allow. With the cup, the holy chalice, west, we ask you be here now. Lover, spirit, intuition, in the center of our souls. In your love we find relation, all connected we are whole. Timeless mystery, quiet conscience, deepest values voice inside. With the drum and with the cauldron, this we ask you be our guide.
Our closing words of benediction come to us from poet populist of Seattle, Pesha Gertler, reminding us once more, before we head out into the world, transformation comes perhaps most often when things have gone in directions we hadn't predicted or even desired. It is in those moments where Gertler finds the healing time. Finally, on my way to yes, I bump into all the places where I said no to my life, all the untended wounds, the red and purple scars, those hieroglyphics of pain carved into my skin, my bones, those coded messages that send me down the wrong street again and again, where I find them, the old wounds, the old misdirections, and I lift them one by one close to my heart, and I say, holy, holy. Let us go in peace to bless the world.